Hey, mister, can you help me finish my house?
Yes.
Daryl Isaacs, the hammer.
Ooh. What you boys doing? Looks like you boys are building outside the urban service boundary.
You gotta make sure the safety's on.
Oh! Oh! Never build outside the boundary, punk. Ooh.
Hi, I'm Madison Ludwig, and today we'll talk about something you probably never heard of, the urban service boundary. What is that, you may ask? Hell, I don't know, but we'll let the expert tell you.
Can you give us your name, just for the record?
Yeah, Chris Woodall.
And what do you do in regards to urban planning?
So I work for the city of Lexington. I'm the manager of long-range planning.
Look back real quick.
Kind of is what it sounds like it is. It's the boundary in which urban services are provided. So it's a growth management tool. It's a way to keep growth from sprawling, or it's a way to keep it compact. Lexington has had an urban service boundary since 1958, and that was the first of its kind in the United States. Urban sprawl has a lot of different consequences, but basically what it is somewhat of an inefficient use of land. Typically you think about suburban style development with large lot residential. The uses are spread apart from each other quite a bit, but it's basically an inefficient consumption of land, which puts strain on infrastructure. It puts strain on tax dollars to pay for that infrastructure. But basically what it boils down to is kind of an inefficient use of land for urban uses. So the way we approach looking at the urban service boundary is every 5 years we will start looking at the data, figuring out what the data is telling us. We'll do public input. We'll request the public engage with us so that we can talk to them about what they're feeling about with a number of issues, including the urban service boundary. It's a plan, and we look at a number of data inputs to sort of figure out whether or not the timing is right and if we should explore expanding the urban service boundary. And what we found this time is that, and the Planning Commission has ruled on it, and the Council as well, they've agreed not to expand the urban service boundary at this time. We think that we've got a number of opportunities within the urban service boundary. There's some concepts called infill, and redevelopment. What infill would be taking land, what we consider infill, is taking land inside the current urban service boundary and trying to use that vacant land to provide for the needs of Lexington. So we did a comprehensive inventory of our vacant land within the urban service boundary and found that we have 5,600 acres of property that we would consider to be vacant inside the urban service boundary, which equates to about 10% of the overall land within the urban service boundary. And what staff recommended was that we do not expand because we thought we had enough opportunities existing for infill sites and for redevelopment within our major corridors, trying to create more residential opportunities, more job opportunities. We've got some available jobs land. So every time this comes up, about every 5 years, we have what I will call a healthy debate on the issue. So we'll get it from both sides. There's folks that were for expanding the urban service boundary. Those folks usually include folks with development interests, that realtors, for example, or developers, or even some of the property owners in those areas where expansion may occur. So there were some opponents to our proposal, but we felt like we sort of talked through all those, and while some of the fears are understandable, we felt like we had pretty good answers for those. To directly answer your question, there are those who feel that we do not have enough land available for single-family housing, and that was an issue that was brought up primarily by the home builders and the realtors. But what we think when we look at our vacant land inventory, we feel like we've got significant inventory to be able to construct single-family housing, but also to sort of pivot and provide a variety of options for housing that are not just your standard single-family detached housing.
The soil's very good.
Do this. There is no.
So one of the main reasons the urban service boundary is pretty important to Lexington specifically is because of our agricultural resources. We're the horse capital of the world, as I'm sure you know, but it's it provides a lot in terms of economic impact. It's a driver of a lot of jobs. I think 1 of every 12 jobs in Lexington is related to the ag industry. So it's important from that perspective, but it's also important because of its unique qualities and soils. We've got really good soils here in Fayette County, which have a number of benefits. But what they say is that they're not making any more land. So as soon as you build, as soon as you develop the land, you sort of lose the ability to sort of reap the agricultural benefits from that. So as you develop the land, that land is then taken out of agricultural production or future agricultural production, really. When you talk about urban sprawl from an environmental impact, you talk about dependency on single occupancy vehicle, so cars. So the further you live away from things, the more dependent you become on a car. And that in turn has air pollution implications to it. The further apart people live from each other, the harder it is for bus systems to operate for mass transit, because if they're not all concentrated together, it's hard to provide adequate service.
My name is Amaya, and thank you for watching our video. We personally think it's best to keep the boundary where it is, as we have plenty of land left to still. Okay. We'll let you decide on what should be done.